3, 2, 1. Take it away, Tom.
Hey, I'm Thomas Baker, and this is Conrad Sokolowski. And we're here on the platform. Just another week, another edition. Staying true to our commitment to try to bring some media to your viewing pleasure at least once a week. And we want to make fun of it. We want to make it casual and cool and down to like 10 minutes. So today our topic is going to be resistance. You want to explain that, Conrad?
Yeah, so basically it's like, we're met with a lot of resistance in this life. And you see it everywhere, pretty much in everything. You know, it's like,
Yep.
not just in the physical, but also the mental. So the most basic is like, well, look at all the resistance you see in the physical world. Like even like a car driving down the street has to deal with so much resistance. There's wind resistance, gravity, friction, and it takes so much effort just to make a car move forward. And you think about all the different things where we're met with resistance, and more specifically in our own heads. And so that's pretty much the gist of it.
So I'm reading a great book called Beyond Order by Jordan Peterson, and I love his take on resistance. And it seems to me like everything in this world is created with existence in mind, in context, or in relationship to whatever it is. I mean, can you think of anything at all? Anything at all, whether it be physically or mentally, that doesn't meet some type of resistance? And here's what kind of the topic that we're taking, or at least the approach that I'm taking, is that I would wager that the things that have the most resistance are good, and the things that are bad have less resistance. So when you're faced with an opportunity to lie or tell the truth, that's just one example. I would wager that the resistance that you face in your mind, and or once the truth or untruth is told, that resistance is less the wrong way and greater the right way. Therefore, if that is true, then we should pursue things that have a greater resistance because they have a greater payoff, a greater reward. So, Conrad, what would you agree with that? Would you disagree? Would you add anything to that? And then, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but at the end of it all, the question is, well, what do we make of all that? What do we make of it all? And we got 6 minutes.
Well, I agree with the whole face the most resistance as you can to have the best outcome, But that also brings up another point too. It's like you also don't want to inherit unnecessary resistance,
Okay.
if it's overbearing and too much, which is,
Yeah.
I think, easy to do. I mean, I think it's easy to adopt things that resist us more than we should. Like for example, if there's something you simply cannot change and can have no effect on, no matter how hard you think about it or how angry you get about it, doesn't change the outcome, then that's a type of resistance that you don't need to add to yourself.
So by that, do you want to keep going with your thought, or can I ask a question?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So by that, do you mean that that resistance exists already. There's nothing you're going to do about it to change the amount of resistance that causes. And by adding or by putting attention onto it, you're actually adding more resistance to it. Therefore, you should just give it up altogether. Give up your control or whatever it is that you're putting on it, and that will let the resistance go or lessen. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Isn't that interesting how that works?
Yeah. It's just that now the key is to know what things, to have the discernment on what things that we should let go and what things we shouldn't let go. But it seems like they might be self-evident,
Yeah.
especially after you've been kicking yourself in the head over for a long period of time.
So here's the thing, like, that we need to talk about on one of our episodes is our consciousness, our conscious and our conscience. Like, the thing in us that when we see a piece of litter on the ground causes us to inherit responsibility, or whatever you would say, adopt responsibility, put it on ourselves to pick it up and throw it away. So that, whatever you would call it, inside our conscious awareness, that that mechanism that judges whether to do something good or bad, that is, I believe, at its core, at its nature and foundation, before corruption, it's pure, and it's a right gauge. Would you agree with that? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? That when our consciousness speaks to us, and tells us to...
I had that moment today. I was at a picnic table, and I saw next to me another one that had a piece of paper and a water cap on it. And I got up to leave, and when I was walking by it, my original reaction was, "Hey, you should throw that away." And then my follow-up reaction was, "Yeah, that's not my problem. Somebody else will do it, or the workers will." And then my third, and this all happens in a matter of microseconds, right? And then my third was, you know what?
Gosh.
Like, you're in the position to make that choice. It's like, why not be that person who does that thing?
Yes.
And so then after that, I just eliminated the amount of time I thought about it, and I just went and grabbed it and threw it away.
Yeah.
Now,
it's interesting.
Yeah, so it's like there's definitely a benefit to that, and I think at the end of it, it's just like, if not you, who? And if you kind of adopt that kind of mindset, then you put the responsibility on yourself.
Not to go too far, I want to cut you off because I want to bring it back to what you were saying originally, which is this battle between adopting and taking on more responsibility than is necessary,
right,
versus versus two things. It's versus taking responsibility on that you don't need to, and taking responsibility on that you don't need to, but you should. Because the trash in the park, that's a taking on a responsibility that is more than you needed per se,
right,
kind of, or could have been,
right,
but it's something that you should do.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of eliminating that one, right? We're focusing more on, or at least we're speaking to the other two, the one that says, like, a friend comes over and asks you to do something as a favor, and you just can't. We've all been there, right? Like, we have stuff going on in our own lives where it's smarter for everyone, even the person asking, if you don't, and yet you do it anyway because you think it's the right thing to do, right? Like, that's...
Yeah, because I would say the curveball, to throw a curveball at that, it's like then you have those people who have suffer from like people pleasing syndrome or whatever you want to call it.
That's where I was.
They go
going
too
with it.
far and beyond where everything is for everybody else, and they don't allow any time for themselves. So now you've tipped over into an unhealthy balance. So
That's I was putting that in that that area of that's what we're talking about when we say taking on more responsibility than you need to.
right.
So I am coupling that with I don't have the responsibility of making the earth move.
Yeah.
I don't have the responsibility of making the sun come up and the grass grow. And so at least I don't have to take on that burden or
Right.
that responsibility or even the weight and gravity of the awareness of that burden, you know, and clean the planet, right? Like that's a real that can weigh on people.
But you know, it's funny.
I better laugh.
There's a little
It better make me
segment
laugh.
that Jordan Peterson was on where he was talking to a crowd and there was a panel. He was like the fifth or sixth one on there, and somebody asked a question. They're like, and I'm paraphrasing here. They're like, "Look, how does somebody contend with the fact that like they want to take on bigger issues like global warming, but they feel so disempowered because they're just like a
Yeah.
nobody and all that, and they have no resources and they can't do anything about it." And so Jordan Peterson, it was interesting because his response to that was,
Go home.
a lot of the times people will adopt these really big grand like undertakings, but really it's just a way to mask their own personal insufficiencies. You know, it's like because her question was, you know, how do we do things that are these global on a global scale that they impact us, but yet you say things, you make banal comments like just go clean your room. And so his response to that was a lot of people they have these skeletons in the closet that they need to take care of, but as a way to mask it, they'll take on these like grandiose undertakings that they know really they can't do anything about, but yet it makes them
gives them
seem
purpose
like
and
noble.
drive.
Yeah, it makes them seem like they have a purpose and they're
Well, that's a great story, Conrad, and thanks for sharing. Let's end with that. I think we need to have a lot more conversations about this, and I would love to get to a point where the viewers that are listening right now and watching would comment, because I think this is a really cool issue.
there's no viewers.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm saying that's why I said I would love to get to the point when there is. Let me see. So, until that happens, peace.